Hello and welcome everybody to our chat and learn today. My name is Hunter. We have a fantastic speaker today. I'm so excited you're here. We have Antoinette and I'll introduce her in just a moment. Before we get started, if you're just joining us here, this is a chat and learn where you get to get an inside scoop on a really exciting company with a really fantastic person that is going to be getting real with us today. So I'm super excited that you're all here. So first up, before we jump in, just a few little bit of housekeeping things. This is an opportunity for you to participate. So feel free to turn on your cameras and fire up that chat box. You can, as things are coming up for you, you can ask questions in the chat. I can relay them to Antoinette. Maybe she will see a question that she is excited by too. She might jump in. We're gonna keep it alive like that. Feel free to, note that this is being recorded. So you will show up on the live recording only if you were to come off mute. But in this instance, we're just going to be using the chat. So if your cameras are on, just me and Antoinette can see you. And also know that we'll be sending you a link with this chat afterwards. So you can rewatch it if there's anything you missed, if you want to share it, you want to post to social media, all that is possible. So if anything comes up for you, if you want to ask a question, like I said, you can ask it in the chat. Also, if you want to ask something privately, if you want me to anonymously ask a question on your behalf, I am more than happy to do that. And you can direct message me in the chat box and I will pass that on. Also, of course, keep up with us on social media at @Power2Fly and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're @Power2Fly on all the things. So whatever your preferred social media format is, you can find us there. Also, getting started, we have a great company, Splunk, and we'll be dropping in the chat now. What you're looking at right now is their info on the Power2Fly website, where I highly recommend, if you haven't already, go check it out. It's really nifty. There's some videos there from other members of Splunk. There's information about them. There's already some good pro tips right on the page. And what's also cool, you can see right there, there's the jobs button right there. That's a really nifty one. And you can see it's a big number, but there's the jobs that are on the Power2Fly website, and you can search directly at the jobs that are listed for Splunk right now. So while we're chatting, feel free to check that out. And feel free to check out Splunk's webpage, and you can connect with them through all the different formats as well. Okay, great. So now that we've done all the housekeeping, Antoinette Rains, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Hunter. I'm glad to be here this morning.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put your name in lights for a second. I'm gonna read your bio here, and let everybody know what they have in store. So Antoinette is, as you can already tell, is a dynamic and influential leader focused on training, delivery, and learning enablement system administration. She has over 13 years of experience working in tech in various roles, from training coordinator, project manager, and training enablement delivery projects and project specialists. Antoinette has founded, mentored, and led several employee resource groups, and Antoinette is intentional and passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and mentors others through networking, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Speaking of which, here's our main takeaways that I hope we can focus on and to kind of keep as our touchstones as we're going through the talk today. So we have the impact internal networking can have in your career, how to make the first step and foster these relationships, and how to structure your meetings with your mentor/sponsor so that you can make the most out of them. So those are our main takeaways. We're gonna jump in, and I'm gonna stop sharing the screen. We're gonna go into gallery view. We can all see each other in our nice happy room here. And Antoinette, so please let me know, before we jump into the pre-submitted questions or the questions in the chat, can you tell me a little bit about your career journey and maybe a bit about how networking impacted your career journey and how you ended up here wanting to share those insights that you have about networking?
Sure. So my career journey is varied. I'm an Air Force veteran. I served in the United States Air Force, and I was in law enforcement for several years when I was in the military and even afterwards. You spoke about the fact that you're from Los Angeles area. I'm from Pasadena, California. So we're very close there. You talked that you are in New York now, and I lived in New York when I worked for the U.S. Customs Service and worked at JFK Airport. So we have, yes, been bi-coastal and lived and worked in some of the same places. And so I was in law enforcement for several years, moved back to California, and was in law enforcement here as well. And then some things happened. Oh, actually, I wasn't in law enforcement here in California. I had applied for the CHP. And at the time, my ex-husband said, you know, it's super dangerous in California. I don't want you being in law enforcement anymore. And we had young children. And so my mother at the time was working for Pacific Bell, which was, you know, part of the AT&T family. And she said, oh, they're hiring. So I wound up getting a job there and worked in customer care and collections and management there. And then in 2007-8, when we had the last big recession and the downturn, I was laid off after 15 and a half years with Pacific Bell. And then it was AT&T, SBC Global, all kinds of stuff. So I had to kind of reinvent myself. So I looked at all the skills that I had gained to that point, right, from the military, from being in law enforcement, from being a U.S. Customs agent and a VA police officer, and then from working in corporate America, and reinvented myself during the recession and wound up in the technology industry. And the way that I kind of fell into that was I was doing some administrative work as an administrative assistant for a CIO. And he said, you're way too smart to be doing this. I want you to learn to be, and it was in IT. He said, I want you to learn to be our project coordinator. And I was like, okay, and that's what? And so I kind of had to learn on my own what that was. And then from there, that was with City of Hope here in California. From there, I wound up being at Keck School of Medicine of USC. And I worked for Keck for several years in IT. Then I was at Stanford. And in 2018, I wound up here at Splunk, which hands down is the best place I've worked in tech thus far. And plan on staying here unless something crazy happens. But so that's kind of my journey. It's evolved as I have had to evolve and grow as a person. And so when you wind up working in different industries and you get in industries, you do network. You do learn to have relationships within businesses. And sometimes that can lead to, you know, another company. And so what I've learned, I'm super excited to be able to share today.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking us through that journey. And also I want to take a moment to say thank you for your service. And
absolutely.
So, yeah, thank you for that. So we have great pre-submitted questions from our participants. And also I encourage everyone that's here on the call today, feel free to drop any questions in the chat and I'll be happy to relay that. So here's a question that I love, just to get us going. Is it ever too early or too late to start networking?
No, absolutely not. You can begin to network from day one. You can be in orientation, and on your onboarding or your orientation, even if it's virtual, like we've had to, you know, shift and do over the past 2 years, you're going to connect with someone in your orientation and onboarding, right? And whoever that is, they're starting the company on the same day as you. I think there may be one person on this call that I started the company with Splunk 4 years ago. Actually, our anniversary is Saturday, April 30th. And she was coming in as an executive assistant, and I was coming into my role in global field enablement as a systems administrator. And I was chatty Cathy with her, and she was looking at me like, what? Because I was like super excited. I was there, super excited to meet her. And we went two different ways in the company. But there were some changes that happened. Yeah, this is Bobby. She said that she started with me. There were some changes that happened that directly affected her and who she was going to be an executive assistant for, and some groups collapsed into one another. And so even though we hadn't spoken to each other in months, I pinged her on Slack, I believe, and was like, "Are you okay? Are you still going to be with the company or whatever?" And so our relationship has really grown. And that's how you network. You find someone on the first day or, whenever. It could be in the restroom when you see someone. It could be in the break room. It could be in the hall or the elevator. And you strike up a conversation. And so it's never too early and obviously never too late. You can network with people until either you leave a company, retire, someone else leaves, and then even afterwards, because we have LinkedIn and other platforms that we can continue to network.
I love that. I love all the different examples of ways you can strike up a conversation, and it makes me excited to ask this next question for someone that maybe that might be a little challenging for them. And their question is, what advice can you give an introvert who finds networking a challenge? I'd love to know the first steps I could take, and maybe you could take us through a little bit to expand on it, what that's like in person and what that might be like versus these virtual ways that we're able to do it now.
Sure. So everybody here would immediately go, Antoinette's an extrovert. And I'm not. I am an ambivert. I can be very extroverted. I can talk a lot. Some of the people that are in some of my groups on the call today will go, Antoinette, be quiet in other calls. And I can definitely deal with people, and I don't have social anxiety. However, after a while, I am done peopling, and I have to take a break and get away. There are times that I won't be on camera because it's like I can't people today, right? And that's my introvert side taking over. And I'm literally about 50-50. So what I would say for someone who considers herself an introvert, really take a look at yourself and see whether or not you have social anxiety. And then if you find someone in the company, whether I said it's on, onboarding or someone in your work group or someone else that you see has similar tendencies as you, similar personality as you, and you may say that, oh, they're an introvert as well. Try to strike up a conversation with them. Even if you can't go to them in person, maybe doing it via email or Teams or Outlook or Slack or whatever your company uses, you can do it that way and just say, hi, I noticed you, or something that can help you feel a little bit more comfortable. And then if they reciprocate, then you can always say, would you mind having a meeting with me, via Zoom, right? Or whatever, again, system your company is using. And if they say yes, then say, you know what, let's connect, set up a meeting, and start talking to them, because they may have some challenges that they're able to say, look, this is what I had and this is how I dealt with it. So I always encourage people to try to find someone that has some similarities to them, because there's always a connection with somebody. And when you find that connection, reach out to them first, and especially if they're more senior or they've been with the company longer, and they can tell you, excuse me, some ways to navigate.
Those are really great tips.
Thank you.
Let's see. So we have so many great questions here. And again, if there's anyone that would like to ask questions on the call, feel free to drop them in the chat here. And, actually, and Antoinette too, I can hear you pretty okay. I'm curious, do you happen to have like a headset or something? There's just a little times when it's a little scratchy.
Okay, I can speak up. And that may help.
The volume's okay, yeah.
Oh, okay. I have headphones in because earlier today when I didn't have them in, I was told that I sounded like I was in a tunnel.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I will make sure that I'm speaking up as well, and hopefully everybody will be able to hear me a little better. I hope it's not my internet.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I can hear you pretty well. So I just wanted to see but looks like you've already taken care of it. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. So jumping back into questions here. This is great. So I love these questions. So here's one we had. How do you broker interactions with people who are more senior than you? I feel like this could be like a very intimidating, potentially scary, is there going to be consequences from speaking up? I can imagine there's a lot of fear around having an important conversation with someone that is senior?
So this is not an issue for me. And the reason I say that is the way that I was raised was you treat everyone the same, whether they are cleaning your break rooms, emptying the trash, cleaning the toilets, or the chairman of the board. And that's how my parents raised us. That's what I've lived with my whole life. And that's how I try to treat people. So for me personally, I'm going to say hello and I'm going to ask whoever, whatever I need to ask. I will give you just a couple of examples at Spunk. We had like our 3 days orientation in San Francisco, and then my office was in San Jose. So on my fourth and fifth day, I was in San Jose. I walked into the building on my fourth day, and a gentleman opened the door for me. We got on the elevator together, went to the sixth floor. He went to a conference room. I went over to my desk, and I worked. And he opened the door, said hi. We had a little bit of conversation. The very next day, he was there again, and some new colleagues from me were speaking, and they said, oh, look at Doug. He has on tennis shoes and jeans and a cool t-shirt today. And I'm like, Doug who? And they said, oh, our CEO, Doug Merritt. And I said, really? I said, which one? And they pointed at him out. And I said, And I literally got up from my desk, and I walked over to him, and I said, good morning. And he said, hey, good morning. I said, so really, dude, you weren't going to tell me you were our CEO when you opened the door and were in the elevator and everything with me yesterday? And he cracked up laughing. This was our CEO, but I'm not afraid, right? And so literally, we had a whole conversation. He was in a QBR, and other executives came out, and he was like, hey, have you met Antoinette yet? He asked my name. And he introduced me to a bunch of the execs. So I wound up knowing like our CHRO at the time, our CEO, our president of the field org, Susan, all kinds of stuff, right? But yes, Chris, that's literally was our conversation. And so every other time that Doug saw me, no matter where we were, he was like, Antoinette. And people were like, how does the CEO know you by name? Because I'm not intimidated. Because my parents told us they eat, sleep, and put on their pants leg one leg at a time, just like you did, right? So don't be intimidated by a title. Sometimes their head come real quicker than yours. And this is how I was raised. So if that helps anyone, look at everybody the same and know that your role is just as important as theirs. Doug literally told me when I met him that day, he said, what do you do, Antoinette? And I told him. And he said, you realize you're the most important person in the company, right? And I was like, no, that would be you. You're the CEO. He said, no. Because the system that I am the main admin for is our LMS, right? So everybody has to get all their learning in the system. He said, if you don't maintain that system, now, he could have been totally gaslighting me. But this is what he said. If you don't maintain that system, our field cannot learn what they need to go and sell our product. And so that I've kept with me. Like, that motivates me to make sure I have the system up and running and functioning properly, right? So if everybody looks at their job as important as the CEO's role and know that they're just a human being as well, I think they'll be fine and less intimidated.
I love that story. It's so humanizing to be like, oh, you just have a conversation with him, and then you called him out, which was really funny, and and he was attracted to it. That was something that he responded to and was able to spark a new conversation out of that. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
I got a question that came in from the chat just now, so I think I'd love to touch on it. We had Deanne Dorman posted a question saying, Antoinette, there's a job in my organization right now that I would die for. I applied formally, but are there some things I can do to improve my chances?
I'm going to answer this as best that I can, because I'm obviously not in the recruiting space and all of that. I do network with people in recruiting at Splunk, but I would connect with whoever the recruiting coordinator or the recruiter is. I'm sure your internal job board has that information. Connect with them and ask them that same question, right? or potentially even say, do you think it would be okay if I connect with the hiring manager? Now, I know I have seen at least one person who is an amazing hiring manager, and obviously a hiring manager at my company, and her name is Melissa Andrews. So, Melissa, you have a little bit more experience in that area. If you want to take off mute and say anything, please do. But I would say connect with the recruiting coordinator and the recruiter and ask them, is there anything else to improve my chances? Or, what is the process? Because some companies, I know Splunk has a pretty rigorous process, and we have multiple interviews. Some people interview 11 times, some interview 7. I know I had 7 or 8 when I started. And so it depends on the role and your experience and all of that. So I don't know if you have applied and then it's sitting because of the process is lengthy at your company or what. So I would start with the recruiting coordinator and maybe the recruiter and just see whether or not, where you stand maybe, or if there is anything else that you can do. That would be, the best advice that I could give.
I think that's great advice, because what I inferred from what you just said too is guiding on how to network, because it's about what are the right channels, who to ask the right questions to, because if you ask one person one question, they might not have an answer. And I also appreciate your humility in this answer, because you're like, well, you know what? I could tell you who to ask that question, or I could suggest. And that in itself is networking, and it's great advice.
Thank you. Yeah, I think people get, we hear this word or see this word networking, and that in itself at times is intimidating, right? And so people are scared and not sure what to do. And I know that there were some real topics as far as takeaways that, I really wanted to address, or we wanted to address, as far as networking goes. And so just know that networking is with anybody, literally anybody, because you can strike up a conversation and Melissa said she couldn't unmute. Hunter, I know she wrote it in the chat, so I don't know whether or not Deanne is able to just read that and that suffices, or if we want to take Melissa off unmute at all.
Oh, sure. Yeah, maybe Paloma can help with that, and I can also read this response as well. Sorry about that, Melissa. To touch on the question earlier that we were talking about, Melissa wrote, I'd also see if there's any room on the team that you could connect with. Per what Antoinette is saying about networking, maybe you know someone who knows someone on the team. Have that person let the team know that you are really interested in the position.
Thank you, Melissa. Great advice. Thanks, thank you for piggybacking and typing all of that since you could not come off of unmute. I just wanted to hit some topics, Hunter, that, we're supposed to, as one of the takeaways, people want to know what is the impact internal networking can have on your career. Because we can all connect on LinkedIn until we're purple in the face, right? But if we never, or at a conference, but if we never meet those people, other than through LinkedIn or whatever, but if we're in a company with people that we work with every day, the impact can be tremendous, right? Obviously, there's relationship building that can occur. You get greater insight into your own company's business, which is great for you, the more that you know. It increases visibility with your leadership. If you are networking and volunteer for a project, that's networking. If your company offers like a mentorship program or a leadership program, or something like my company has Splunk Business 101. I found out about it 2 weeks ago. Melissa was in that and several others. I met a lot of people on my team, and then someone reached out to me and had questions about something just last week. So that's networking, right? So if your company offers any of that, a mentorship program, a leadership program, a session, it could be an hour even, right? To learn more about your company. If someone says, hey, I'm looking for someone to sit with me and work on this project with me, volunteer. Make the time, because the more time that you make, the more opportunity to network you have, the more that you learn about things outside of your realm, but within your business, and about other teams. That's networking. So it doesn't have to be this big scary thing. It's connecting with people. It's everyday interactions that you will have. But I do want to talk also about like those interactions, right? Um, when we have this, how to make the first step and foster these relationships. And Hunter, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be letting you ask questions. I guess I'm not supposed to be moving on to this section and this section. So let me back up a minute and let you go on and ask the questions. I apologize for that. Because I will take it over and I will tell people everything they need to know or want to hear, and then they can ask questions. But I'm supposed to let you moderate this. So go ahead.
Oh, you're doing fantastic. I'm so elated, and I could listen to you all day. And it is a back and forth. It's fantastic. And also, again, to speak to Antoinette, the introvert, I mean, like, hello, like, look what you can learn if you apply ourselves, right? Like, here's someone that's showing up that can lead the room, which is really just truly inspiring.
Thank you. Now, after this call, trust me, the introvert's going to take over, and I'm going to be like, whew, I finished, I made it. I got to go and decompress now for a minute. That part of me will definitely take over later on.
I am the same way. I am absolutely the same way. People are like, oh, you're so like fun and talkative and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, yes, and I
need my space. I need my time. I need to disconnect. Yeah, I'll definitely have to do that.
Yeah, and that's, for me too, that's been an evolution of learning about myself and what boundaries I need to lovingly set with myself and with other people, to be like, oh, I need to do X, Y, and Z before I am mentally fit to even have a conversation with someone. Like, that could be for someone that's maybe their morning coffee, and for me it happens to be like stretching and quiet time and reading that has nothing to do with work things. And then it's like, okay, Hunter is neutral now, and how can I help? But I need to do all of that first, otherwise I'm not helpful.
But that's all part of the evolving that we're talking about, right? And really growing and learning yourself so that you can be your best self, right? So, like, one of the things I wanted to hit on is when we come to meetings or whatever, or just to work, we're our own brand. So we have to present, you have to present you. I have to present me. And how we show up and how we present is extremely important. And so, not just our appearance, but your appearance, your attitude, whether you seem approachable, whether you are prepared and knowledgeable. Those things are so impactful when it comes to networking, right? Because you want to leave a good lasting impact and something that people will take away and remember you by. And so that's all has to do with networking. You being your best brand, how you show up and how you present. And so if I don't allow the extrovert to take over in situations like this, then that's not going to be a good thing. But then knowing that, okay, this really drained me, please don't think everybody on this call, you all are draining me, because that's not what I mean. But, to do this right now, my hands are shaking a little bit, and I'm not a person that's nervous very much, but I'm just like, okay, are they receiving it? And I do see in the chat that yes, people are, but it's still like, I want to present well, not just for myself, but for my company. And so that's important to me. So that will take and drain me, and then I'll have to go and regroup and recharge. Like, I think it's Kiana Williams said that she's 100% introvert, and when she's done peopling, she has to pretty much sit in the dark and recharge. I may not sit in the dark, but I am going to sit and think about this session so that I can recharge for the remainder of my day.
Mm-hmm. I also love too, in the evolution that we're speaking about, and maybe you can speak to this experience as well, that because what you were saying a moment ago, I heard you saying about when to use your extrovertness, and when it's useful. And there's also on the flip side of like when my introvertness is useful, like those are times when I can sit and focus and do emails and, or my prep and my research or my coding or whatever it is people are doing. It's about finding that time and place of like, oh, here's these qualities that are useful, maybe not so useful in this scenario, but they are useful in this scenario, and learning that give and take experience.
Yeah, it's so important. And for me, one of the things that I do, I had to learn about managing my time, right? And so I have blocks on my calendar. Every single day of the week, I have different blocks at different times. That's me time, right? We talk about self-care or work-life balance, but we really don't do that. And especially in the last 2 years, people are working and having their life in the same place at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, I do push, like Estella said, self-care has to be at the top of your list, because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be any good for anyone else, whether it's at work or your family. So you really have to balance that and take time during the middle of the day to go outside or whatever it is, right? Get up and stretch or whatever. I get up and go to the gym at 5 o'clock every morning with my next door neighbor. And she's the age of one of my adult children. But we have a blast, and we work out for an hour or whatever and do our stretching. And I come home, and then I'm ready to, get my day going, my shower, eat, or whatever. Once I log on in the morning, I do not immediately set myself as active on my Slack. I keep it as though I'm away. I may be online a whole hour and nobody will know unless I have personally reached out to them or answered an email. That gives me my time to go through my emails and figure out, I'll star certain ones or mark them unread again, even though I've read them, so I can go back to them. I'll clear out the clutter and all the spam or, advertisements. And then I have time to really digest and say, okay, this is how I want to respond to this person. I'll also do the same in my Slack. I'll look at them and, respond. And when I see okay, I know I'm going to have to respond to this one, so I don't want to click on that, because once it's open, I can't mark that unread. I have to respond to that. But I've had to learn to manage me and what's best for me so that I can give myself in the morning that time to say, okay, here we go, I'm ready, right? And where I don't feel burnt out or worn out first thing in the morning.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so many great tips in there. And I do quite a few of those too, of marking them unread again, taking that time. I love that you were talking about blocking out time in your calendar for your self-care. For me, I am very visual. So my calendar, I have 20 different calendars that are all different colors. So each thing is a different color. And for me, my social and self-care is yellow. So I can just look at my month, and if I don't see much yellow on the calendar, I got to take better care of myself. And it's just
absolutely
a look to be like, oh, I need to go take a break. Let's make some time.
Yep, that's so important. And a lot of companies, I like to say Splunk is an A-type personality company. We're all go-getters. We're all yes. And, some really over the top. I probably fall into that category quite a few times. But, when you work with people like that, and it is like a family, you have to say, oh, wait, I do need to pull back so I can recharge, because we'll just go, go, go. And I do tell people a lot, please take your time off. Don't give it back to the company. They give you volunteer time. They give you sick time. They give you, your vacation time. Please take your time off. And I preach that a lot to people because I believe in it. I do. I will block off time and go outside. I will change into a swimsuit and go sit in my jacuzzi for an hour. And I tell my team, unavailable, I'm going to sit in my jacuzzi. And they laugh, but when I need that time, I do it.
I love that. That's one of the beauties of working at home. The jacuzzi's nearby.
Very true. And just know, I am a remote worker, period. I will go on off-sites up north, but when I started with Splunk, I was remote. And I can't even imagine having to commute and go into an office. That would make me bananas. But yes, that is the advantage.
So I had a question that came into me directly to circle back on the introvertness, and then we'll move on to a different topic. So one last one. The person wrote, I am heading into a new role as a senior project manager. As Antoinette has said, I am also an introvert. What approach should I take when networking to ensure I am supportive of others while ensuring I also receive the support I need? How can I take a positive approach to networking and impress the leadership? I feel like we have touched on quite a few of these things here.
Yeah.
And maybe that last part we can focus on, like talking about impressing leadership. I feel like we've touched on it, but maybe that's one we could expand a little more.
So I don't believe in trying to impress anybody. I believe in bringing my authentic self to work, period. Like me if you want to, don't like me if you don't want to. I'm not concerned with, and this is part of the evolving and growing, right? I wasn't always there, but I don't care if people like me. Because I've had too much of trying to make people like me, and no matter how much I try to make people happy or like me, there's people that just aren't going to like me, right? Whether it's the way I look, whether it's the way, the color of my skin, the way I wear my hair, whatever. There's always going to be someone that doesn't like something about you, and really, it's a reflection of themselves. They don't like something in them, and they see that in you. So rather than trying to get to know you so they can maybe glean something and get some knowledge and some wisdom from you and begin to move differently, all they know is to dislike you. So I think not to focus on trying to impress anybody ever, because I don't do it. Focus on you. Focus on representing yourself well, being your best brand. Focus on putting your best work forward. And then guess what? All of that's going to speak for you. And so leadership will take notes. I would suggest possibly if you don't have, get a mentor. Seek out a mentor and then potentially even a sponsor, right? Because those people can bring you into the room, give you seats at the table that you may not have, and then that could equate to impressing leadership. But I don't try to impress anybody.
That's fantastic. We work on ourselves, and then our work will speak for itself, and our actions will speak for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned sponsorship, and I have a question that was pre-submitted about sponsorship, and the person asked, once we're able to schedule a meeting with a new sponsor, how can we structure the meeting to make the most out of it?
Great question. Thank you for asking that. And you know what, I do want to say the person that asked that last question spoke first about they're stepping into a new role, so I want to acknowledge that and say congratulations. So I don't want to make light of that. Congrats on your new role, and I wish you much success in that role. So this one, whether it's being a mentor or a sponsor, and they are definitely different. A sponsorship is someone that invests in you, and it's a two-way street, and they believe in you, and they want to give you advances. They want to bring you into a room where you may not necessarily have regular opportunities. They want to elevate you, right? So if you have a sponsor or you have made that connection and you've asked and someone said, yes, I will be your sponsor. If you are beginning to have meetings with them, you should first be the one that initiates the meetings. You schedule the meetings, you look at their calendar. If they have an assistant, work with that assistant to schedule the meeting. The second thing to do would be make sure you have not necessarily a full agenda that you have to send to them, but you have your bullet points. You have the things that you want to discuss. Make the most of your time with your sponsor. Do not sit and have idle conversation, because they probably do not have time for that. If they've made time, it's important to them. So when you do that, you go with whatever questions you want to ask, and you hit on those topics and you ask them. When they are speaking, make sure you have your pad out and you take notes. So take notes on your discussion. If they give you some advice like, hey, I want you to go and get this book, and the next time we meet, we're going to discuss that. You write that down. I believe that when you close out your meeting, you need to do a couple things. First of all, send a thank you note, whether it's email or even an e-card. I recently sent out 4 e-cards to some people here at Spoon because I had interactions with them, and e-cards are free, right? Anybody can do them, but I think sending handwritten notes is a lost art. And so I wanted to still send a note that was really something that I had thought about, so I got e-cards and sent them each e-cards. And each of them contacted me after they opened them. Some didn't open them for, a week. Others opened it in an hour or whatever. But they were like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. That made my day. So that's very important to acknowledge people and the time that they gave you. And so send a note after each meeting. Thank you. Thank you for the time. Thank you for what, you said to me or whatever. And then in your spare time, I like to look at my notes and take notes off of those notes. And I think people don't necessarily do that, but that's part of digesting it, right? You take a note and you go, okay, they said this. And if I can take notes off of my notes, I make additional notes. And then I have a call to action, right? Okay, did they tell me to get a book? Did they give me this feedback? Sometimes feedback can be a tough pill to swallow. Sometimes you have to look in the mirror and go, oh, golly, that hurt, right? But that's for your good in the long run, and they're providing you that feedback in hopefully a loving manner, in a constructive, positive manner. And that's an opportunity for you to change your perspective on you as a person, and yet again, grow and evolve.
Such good advice and so real. Feedback can be so challenging sometimes. For me, I'm a perfectionist. I want everything to go perfectly. And guess what? I'm an imperfect human mortal who makes mistakes.
So there's not going to be perfection. Yep.
No,
absolutely.
Just progress.
Absolutely. Continue to grow and press forward.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. So you mentioned the differences between sponsoring and mentoring. Mm-hmm. And someone asked if you could help them understand the differences between networking and mentorship. Yeah,
so networking is literally what we're doing on this call, right? We're having conversations. We see people chatting. And if anybody wants to connect with people they see chatting, please put your LinkedIn or however they can connect with you in the chat, right? Because you may see something that what Amy just said, right? If anybody wants to send a handwritten card, thank you for that, Amy, because I would love to be able to do that. And then or what Paloma said or Melissa showed on Instagram or whatever, right? And you might think that, hey, some of the advice someone gave me in the chat, I really want to connect with them. Put your LinkedIn. That's networking. Start networking with one another, right? You can always email or whatever from your networking. Mentoring is having someone that either inspires you, that you look up to, that you like the way they move, right? In meetings, you like the way they respond in emails, and they have something that you would like, that you would like to learn from them. And you may go on and say, hey, I would really like to have you as my mentor. A mentor is someone that also is going to believe in you, that's going to potentially be, your sounding board, that can give you some advice or help guide you based on, where you want to go in your path, in your career. So there are definitely two different things. That will be more one-on-one, regular sessions or meetings versus you can network with people and say, hey, I see this job at your company. Can I send you my resume and you'll put it in for me or something like that? You may not have a real one-on-one relationship with someone you're just networking with versus a mentor.
Thank you for that distinction.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a question come in when earlier you mentioned working from home, working remotely, and I had a question come in to touching on that. The person wrote, I work for tech software company and have been working remotely due to COVID. Corporate has a wide policy is where they're back to the office now. Now I'm a caregiver and also want to work from home and need to continue to work from home. Does Antoinette have any advice on an approach when meeting with HR to get approval to work from home?
So I would say don't skip directly just to HR, right? I would say work with your direct supervisor because you have probably normal one-on-ones with that person and you should have a relationship with that person. If you don't, start having some one-on-ones and getting a little bit closer to them as your supervisor. I can tell you, my manager, who's been my manager now for 4 years, he calls me on my cell phone all the time, and not work related. He's like, "Hey, Antoinette." He's originally from India. He's now a citizen. Him and his wife, but he has younger kids. He's like, "Hey, I have this question. Can you help tell me what to do in this instance?" Right? And so we have a good outside of work relationship as well, right? And we know how to keep those separate, so it's not like intertwined or whatever. But I would say he is a friend as far as my manager. But I would say talk to your supervisor or your manager first and say, "This is my situation. Is there anything that you can do?" Right? You try to use your leverage with your manager to maybe talk to your HR business partner. Everyone has different individual circumstances, and I know that every company, for the most part, is open to listen and to find out what that is, and their policy could potentially be flexible. I don't know that because I'm not with your company. But definitely talk to your manager, talk to your HR business partner or whomever, and see what their policy is, see how flexible they are, and if it is something that they can do to work out with you. But again, you have to have the conversation. So just be ready to have a conversation.
Mm. So we have about 15 minutes left on the call. So if anyone has any questions they would like to ask live in the chat, feel free. So the last couple of minutes, we're going to be going to some pre-submitted questions. So there's really about 10 minutes left to ask your questions live now. And while we are collecting those, I still have a few more from that you submitted earlier. So thank you for these.
And thank you, Bobby. Hunter, Bobby just chimed in on what I said in the chat. I'm sure everybody sees it, but she said, "Get the buy-in of your manager and your manager's manager and business partners to support you working from home and present this to HR. If your team supports it, at least you have advocates supporting your proposal." So thank you very much for that, Bobby.
Thank you, Bobby. Yes, and thank you, Antoinette, for reading it. As for our recorded version later, people can't see the chat, so I love highlighting this. Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so someone asked, here's a fun question. How do you find out before you network with people that they fit your values so you don't waste your time and their time?
So I think this goes back to, for me, looking for or finding a mentor, right? But networking is a little different because, again, networking is a conversation. I think when you begin to open yourself and have conversations with people and learn who they are, you will learn what their values are pretty quickly, right? Just from a normal conversation. If they don't align with your values or your purpose, toodles. You don't have to stay connected and continue to reach out, right? Everything that you have the capability or authority, which is within your realm, your own personal space, you have control of that. So if you want to keep networking with that person, go for it. If you don't think that they're a good fit, bye. But as far as like if it's for a mentor or, a sponsor, I think you have to look at the trait. You have to see whether or not they know the organization, if they know the industry that you are interested in, if this is what the person means by values for this question, right? You have to see if they are patient, if they have a desire to give back, if they have time, right? Because again, some people will act like, or not, I won't say act like, they may be too busy. And if they're too busy, that may not be a good connection for you or someone that you want to work with or potentially have as a mentor or sponsor. Are they honest? That's a value for me that's a kind of deal breaker. If I find out you lie and you're conniving and this, I'm not dealing with you because that's not how I operate. If they have an ulterior motive or not. And then if they're politically savvy, meaning then everybody has politics in their organization, right? So are they able to help you navigate politics? Me and my thing with politics is I'm not playing politics. Just like I don't care if you like me. I'm presenting my best self. I'm presenting my best work, and I will let that speak for me. I'm not going to get entangled in the games of the politics. It's not necessary to do my job. And I just wouldn't advise that people do that because that can, become really messy. So I think that you have to look and see what your values truly are and connect with people, align with people that have those same values. And you will know that as you begin to reach out and connect with people.
Great tips. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left. We'll do a couple more questions here, then we'll jump into some of our bonus questions. And can you speak on, there was a question here. Oh, this one kind of made me laugh. Are there industries or roles where networking is less important or helpful?
I don't know. I would say no. Because
Yeah.
again, back to how I was raised, I'm dealing with everybody. I'm speaking to everybody, right? No, I'll speak to the CEO. I'll speak to the janitor. I'll speak to Sahil, who he works for my company, and I just saw his information in the chat. But I will speak to whomever because I can always learn. If I have a desire to learn something, I can learn something from everybody. Whether it's from life experience and they share something with me or specifically on the job. And then I may not need to utilize what they have for me right then, but because I've made that connection, it might be something later that I go, oh, you know what? I need to do this. And this person A over here asked me this. And though I don't know it, I know Sahil can do it, or I know Melissa can do it, or Zalak or Angela or somebody. They have what I need. So because I've connected with them and have a little bit of a relationship with them, let me ask them. And so, no, I don't know that there would be something that, is less important. I don't think that there ever would be.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great. Now it's the home stretch. So I'm getting a bunch of questions in the chat now. Now it's happening. This is when it happens. Okay, so we're going to knock out a few here. Someone asked, since networking involves connecting with new people, I often wonder if I am intruding in the person's private space. Any advice on this, please?
So to me, intruding on someone's personal and private space is asking them personal questions or starting to talk about their personal life. If I see someone new on a team or in the office, when I go into the office, it's okay for me to walk up or close enough to say, hi, welcome to Splunk or something like that, right? And then what I try to do a lot of times is offer my assistance to them. If there's anything that you need as a new Splunker, please reach out to me. If there's a specific area, right, about like my LMS system or Beams, which is one of our ERGs, or the Veterans ERG or whatever, if there's any way I could be of assistance to you, please feel free to reach out to me, right? That to me can begin the networking conversation or that connection with that person without intruding. You don't intrude right away. And then you still wait for someone to share things with you before you get in their personal business. Again, how I was raised, you don't do that. You don't just ask questions, about people's lives and all of that. I might share mine and kind of expect it in return, but if people don't give it, then I'm not going to be like, oh, do you have kids? And I remember there was a CEO I worked for years ago, and he was divorced, and I was too, and he had 4 kids, and I have 4 kids, and he had the audacity to ask me, are all your kids by the same father? And I was like, what did you just ask me? And so the professional Antoinette left, and Tony came out, and it was like, are all of your kids by you? And this was literally our conversation, but he was a new CEO, and it was like, so that was obviously inappropriate. Mm-hmm. And I did go and speak to someone in HR about it, but you don't ask questions about people's personal lives. You allow them to share when they're ready.
Yeah, it's about meeting them where they are, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, well, we have just about 5 minutes left, so I am going to share my screen again and jump in with some it was speaking of personal questions. So it was like, what's the scoop with Antoinette here? Getting real with Antoinette. Um, so how about this? Because we have just a couple minutes. I'm going to read your first two, and then you can jump in with the third one, and then our bonus one as well. Okay. So when we asked you earlier, how would you describe the culture in Splunk? Antoinette wrote, Splunk's culture has evolved so much. It's more diverse, and Splunkers, great word by the way, can bring their authentic self to work without fear. Splunk is a wonderful company to work for and with many benefits. And when we asked, what's your favorite part about working at Splunk? The people. I have an opportunity to learn something new every day about our mission, bringing data to everything, and the many diverse cultures represented at Splunk, and Splunkers' interests and what makes them who they are. I love these answers and questions.
Thank you.
And now I'm going to read this, and maybe if you want to expand on this a little bit, what are the top tips for someone who is interviewing? You said, be yourself, don't be nervous. Take a few minutes to breathe and center yourself before interviewing begins. Take notes during your interview. Prepare a few questions for your interviewer, and research the company first. Those are just chef's kiss. Gold, 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 gold.
Thank you. Yeah, those are, I mean, a lot of times we get intimidated, especially with a company like, oh, I want this job so bad. We get really nervous and, palms are sweaty and all that. Don't do that. Just breathe and realize you're talking to another human being, regardless of what their title is or whatever. You are talking to them and have a conversation like we've been able to do here for the past hour.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Before we wrap up, can you share with us why now? Why is now a great time for people to apply for Splunk and be a part of the Splunk family, to become a Splunker, as it were?
That's right. We're Splunkers. Because Splunk is an awesome company to work for. I think I said that in the beginning. I'll give some examples. We're A-types, right? We'll get it done. We just work. But we're really like a family. Every now and then, you have a drunk uncle and, at a barbecue, at a cookout or something, right? At a family event, Splunk has them. You just go, okay, whatever. But for the most part, we're like a family. Splunk has amazing benefits when it comes to paid time off, sick time, volunteer time. Our pandemic time was great. They just tweaked it and changed it a little bit since we're coming out of the pandemic. But we have amazing medical, dental, vision, and we have something called our Spark Wellbeing Program, where they basically give us money every quarter to go and do whatever we want so that our well-being is good. And then, to me, the best part about the people is our ERGs. We have 9 ERGs. From BEAMS, which is the Black Employees and Mentors at Splunk. We have veterans, we have natives, we have neurodiversity, we have the Pride ERG, we have Somos, my Somos family, Filipinx. We have amazing ERGs, and they have amazing programming that if you really want to be involved, you can learn so much about other people. And one thing that I always say is that the reason we have hate or, whether we want to call it racism or whatever in the world is because we don't know enough about each other, about our backgrounds and our cultures. And so if you join ERGs and you go to different events and listen to them, truly listen, and you're open to learn, you're going to learn about your colleagues, and that's what makes us all family. So those are some great reasons to join Splunk now. Go to splunk.com/careers and look for what's available and out there and try to become part of our Splunker family.
And then we can all go spelunking, so to speak.
Yes, you can. Thank you, Christopher and Melissa, for putting Melissa for Disabled Equals True. Yes, I didn't mean to leave anyone out. I was trying to say them all, but thank you for adding those.
Oh, that was amazing. It was like your Academy Awards speech at the end. There's so many people to thank, so many people to mention. You're going to try to get to them all. And I love to, on that note, to close on about we just don't know enough about each other. So, thank you for letting us get to know you quite a bit about Splunk today and spending this time. I dropped in your LinkedIn in the chat there, and folks feel free to drop Antoinette a message. We're also going to drop in the links to where you can connect to Splunk on our Power to Fly website, where you can see all of, there it is. Thank you, Paloma, is just dropped it in. And let's hear one last round of applause for Antoinette. Thank you so much for making
and for all of you who took the time. Thank you very much. Appreciate you, Power to Fly, and everybody for giving an hour of their time to be here today. Because we will give our time to what's important to us.
Fantastic. Yes. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Antoinette. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Everybody take care.